Welcome along. This one is by DJ Python and it's called Dulce Compania. Pronunciation's probably not great there. And it's on a label called Incienso. This is an album actually. It's a double pack. Shuffle rhythms and chiming keys on this one to open. This one's a little bit more beat heavy. Kind of Caribbean style drums, which are a big feature of this release actually. Builder, that one. Onto the flip now. Takes a little while to develop this one. Slightly dubbier. This one well. Just little bits of bass bubbling up. Going on that, but nice little inside track all the same. Onto the second side, second record at least. Some tracks do a little bit more, but I think overall a lot of these are very much about the atmosphere. Rise very nicely. So it's funny, I sometimes with stuff like this, you know, there's where the beats can be a little bit more broken, but technically we're still looking at a house record, I guess. But an interesting one at that. Yeah, the atmosphere is a little bit more smoky in this one. There's kind of more of it. It's like a fog. Going on to the next one. A similar theme throughout most of the tracks. Certainly 2 or 3 good club tracks. A lot of nice listening material here, and I think sometimes the way the format of this is, where we're flicking through the tracks, it doesn't always do the music full justice. Certainly some nice listening on this, as well as I said, a few tracks that will work well in the club. too sure who that gentleman is singing. Or if it's a sample or what. I don't like to assume anything actually. Sometimes we kind of, unless you know the sample for sure, it's maybe unfair to assume that it is a sample. Could be the producer, could be a friend of theirs, who knows. What it is I've seen about this DJ Python character. I don't know much about them, but I saw something about Gran Canaria a while ago. I don't know if that's because they're from there or what, but yeah, interesting. I'm sure there's people out there that know a lot more about DJ Python than I do, but it was certainly an interesting release that I saw pop up recently, and that's the last one there. Moving on now to Börft Records. Actually, you know what? That's not really the one I should be starting with. It should be the other side. I think I've mentioned before, actually, these sort of records, or those kind of tracks, I often just get them for those kind of intros. So we're starting a bit like that. And eventually it runs out into this, and I've been using that as an intro in some recent sets. I always find those bits quite handy. This one is by Daniel Andréasson, and it's on Börft, which is... what's those guys' names? It's Frack's label. Those three dudes. Who have been around for years. I think they have music going back to definitely the 80s anyway. Yeah, going a long time. Maybe even late 70s, but certainly 80s. But I remember seeing their Discogs there a while back and realising how long they'd been in the game and releasing music. But yeah, this one, like I said, is by Daniel Andréasson. Loopy-ish kind of DJ friendly stuff, I guess. No, it is straight up kind of loopy stuff, but packs a bit of a punch. Yeah, definitely machine jams. He edited out of various machine jams that this guy did. Yeah, no particularly standout tune as probably that one. That was the one I've been playing the most. Certainly his mixing tracks are all useful in their own way. That's Daniel Andréasson. Now, let's see. This person, I like the name first of all. Aggborough is the person's name, and this is sounds quite slow there, doesn't it? Doesn't sound right there. So this person is called Aggborough, and it's on a label called, well, it's OTL, but that's not actually the. I should know the name of this actually, because I've got a few in this recently. And initially I came across Aggborough, I think it was a few months ago. It's actually Fran Hartness that put me on to this person's music. And there was one particular track that had a vocal on it. But it seems that Agbborough's had a fair few releases on this label. Sometimes when things like that happen, but it's like halfway through the track, I kind of wish it sort of happened earlier in the track, because sometimes I would get a little bit impatient mixing a track in for that long, and that the payoff can kind of come a little bit late on in the tune. But yeah, a certain time of the night and stuff can certainly suit quite well. rippling bass in there, and then going onto the flip. Yeah, so I'd love to be able to tell you the exact name of the label. Maybe it just is called OTB, but I thought the OTB stood for something like Other or something, but I could be wrong. OTB anyway. Certainly a little bit groovier than the ones I heard from him before this, actually. Not a million miles away from maybe some of the stuff Scudge would do, actually. Aggborough, as I said. I don't know if he's Dutch or Belgian. It's one or the other, I think. Now, this one is by Pessimist, and Pessimist has had a good lot of stuff out recently, and I kind of picked it all up at once, actually. This one is on Osiris Music, who have been... Yeah, they've actually put out a lot of records. They kind of keep their head down and just put out records. You don't see much, too much hype or too much necessarily too much press here and there. But certainly, if you go to their catalogue, they've released a lot of stuff, and I've been picking up more and more of their things in the last couple of years. But this one is by Pessimist, who is an upcoming producer, but I think he has been producing for quite a few years. Like I said, I went on a little bit of a splurge with his stuff recently, and have been very, very satisfied with everything I've heard by him. It seems that he's a drum and bass producer originally, and you can obviously hear the breaks influence in most of his stuff. What I like about it as well is it's like a lot of drum and bass producers that move over to techno, their production standards is very, very high. It's impeccable, and this particular track I've enjoyed playing a lot. It just kicks so well in a club. Stays pretty much really the atmosphere that changes. Actually, I thought the beats did there a little bit, but certainly a pulsing little A2 there. Now onto the flip, or is it the B2? I'm not too sure actually. And then on this side, actually, you need to switch it to 45. Now some of this stuff as well, it's not a million miles away from some of the Sandwell District, the early Sandwell District stuff. If you heard this, and as well, a reminder for people with Sandwell District, the first Sandwell District was quite a few years ago. It was actually the early 2000s. I think it was 2002 or 2001. Definitely 2002, if not earlier. So, but then a lot of it kind of kicked back into action probably 5 or 6 years later. I can't remember exact dates, but when they were kicking off and were in their prime, I guess, even before the Function records started dropping, there was definitely stuff like this coming out on the label. And that's not taken away from Pessimist, by the way, but it's hard in techno to sound completely different to everything else, but certainly he does, like the one on the other side. And actually, maybe I should have brought that last Blackest Ever Black release with me as well, which is probably a wider showcase of his music. I feel the ones on this are maybe a little bit more, definitely quite DJ friendly in comparison. say that you wouldn't play a lot of the other ones as well, but certainly these ones are a little bit more straightforward. Ah, okay. That's interesting, isn't it? So that should be a 33. So then are we saying that this should have been a 33 as well? Doesn't sound like it. Seems like there's just one track on this that you're meant to play 45. Interesting. Or should it be played 33? I prefer the 45, and I think that's what I've been playing it at. But as we'll see, you can't really play that at 45, or could you? Let's see. Let's play it at 45. Yeah. Pitch it down a little bit. Yeah, it's okay. At 45, but at -8, that one works. And then let's bring it up to 33 normal speed. Yeah, I kind of like it back here. So that one's Pessimist. Yeah, sounds sick. So that one is, yeah, I've said that now for about 5 times. So that one is Pessimist. This one now is UVB. And this one is on Numb Records. We tend to cut everything 45 on both sides, even if there's 2 per side. And UVB has done a very Numb record here, following in the footsteps of people like Toki and Dallo, aka Lochte Brada and Rummenigge. And he's really got the sound down, actually. If there would be somebody other than Regis and those kind of producers who you would compare UVB's music to, it would certainly be people like Toki and Dallo, the Slovakian legends. Yeah, overall, I seem to be using that a good bit in this episode. Overall, a very DJ friendly record. And the thing with Sebastian's music as well, it's getting the production is getting better and better. Some of the music, like I said, is getting a bit loopier, but his production is getting better. And then tracks like this as well, with that kind of extra bit of atmosphere. Yeah, it just shows a good, how to say, yeah, new territory, I think, for UVB. The sound has changed over since that first big Mord release that he had, or the double pack at least. And I think a lot of people expected him to continue doing that. Obviously, he had one very big track off that, and when you have a track that's that big, everyone kind of expects you to repeat it again. But he didn't, in fairness to him, and that has to be respected. A lot of producers either try to replicate it and don't manage to do it, or else, in some cases, some producers stay very quiet as well because they just can't come up with something new. But certainly UVB is doing his thing now, and it is very it does suit the aesthetic of Numb, Slovakian label, very well. Thanks to Brano also for getting that one out, or sending me that one out. I would have got it anyway, but yeah, great to see them back. This one is by Orla, and this is on Hotflush. Almost Aphex like qualities, quite haunting keys. Orla is from Derry up north, and she's based in Liverpool. I remember she played at a night I played at over there in a place called 24 Kitchen Street, and that isn't too long ago. That's maybe, when would that have been? I know it was on Patrick's Day. It wasn't this year, it was the year before that. I think 2016. And she has done remarkably well over the last year. This is her second single, I think, on Hotflush now. She had a very well received Boiler Room recently as well, so great to see her doing well. Now, actually, I think is this the remix, or is this, there is a few, there's one remix on this, which is Fit, I forget the person's name, hang on. We'll work it out in a second. As you can tell, I don't overly plan these things. I'm not necessarily 100% sure of which track I'm going to start on in each record. This one is certainly Orla. Dense, broken beats there. Actually, most of what I've heard from her so far has been on the broken beat side. She's certainly quite an eclectic DJ as well for house and techno. She does dip into lots of other styles. And when you hear her tracks, you can definitely see why. Now, moving on to the flip. Now, is this the A side? Who knows? Funny, because when I looked at the Hotflush logo for a split second, when I pulled it out, I actually thought it looked like the Vulex logo, but it's not. Now, okay, so this side, that side. Okay, so the other two on the other side were both Orla, as I actually thought, and this one is Fit Siegel or Acidy interpretation. That shuffly beat. Yeah, some nice panning on one of the sounds there as well, which you can hear nicely in the headphones here. Taking another little turn towards the end. So yeah, impressive. That's one by Orla. And that's out on Hotflush now. Now moving on, other producer here who's on the way up, and I'm not actually. I've met this person, Evigt Mörker. Is that how I say it? Evigt. And I played a gig with him in Bassiani in Georgia earlier in the year, so I had the pleasure of seeing his live set. Him and Acronym both played live that night. And both were very impressive actually. This is his first record on Northern Electronics, which is run by a few different people, I think. One of them being because he's changed his name. It was Abdullah Rashim, but he has now changed his name to I forget what he's. Everyone knows who the guy is anyway, but Northern Electronics, they're putting out a serious amount of music, and they're extremely productive, putting out albums to beat the band as well. So, but yeah, this is a single, and this is by Evigt Mörker, Swedish producer. Yeah, some nice weird atmospherics popping in and out. whistling. The last one. Yeah, so certainly overall, kind of from the mill school of loop techno, but I don't know, the atmospheres do definitely have their own distinct originality as well. Now. Good layering tracks, good tracks to move from one thing to the next. I wouldn't quite call them filler tracks, but certainly there's not loads of massive changes in them. But certainly, and as I realised from listening to both of these producers that night, their music it's what I'd call sound system music. Like in terms of techno, there's a lot of techno that just comes alive when it's played on a really good system, and there's often really good tracks that you have that when you play them on a big system, it actually exposes stuff that doesn't sound so good in the production. But with some of these guys like Acronym and like this guy Evigt Mörker, if I got the pronunciation right, when you hear their stuff, and I even knew listening to it, I caught the end of his set and I got Acronym set that night, and I could tell, overall the tracks, they sound loopy, but when you hear them over a system, you hear how dynamic they are, and certainly, I have to say that night after hearing both of those producers, I did kind of understand the Northern Electronics aesthetic a little bit better than I had done up till then, because I wasn't really picking up loads of those records, but I can see that these guys are actually, and there are only a couple of the producers involved, but I can see there is Varg as well is obviously somebody doing some really impressive stuff now also. But on the dance floor techno side of things, they're certainly worth keeping an eye out for. Now, moving on. This one is from Slam. Yeah, Slam are doing a good job of picking up old tracks and remixing them and then calling them their own. But no, listen, they're doing a good job of it actually. This one is called Like This, and this is actually a remix of an old, let's face it, it's a remix. It's a remix of an old track by DJ Hell. And they did one recently as well with DJ Milton as well. But I gotta say, like, fair play to Slam, because it's really good to put a kind of a modern sheen on a lot of these old tracks and give new life to them as well. And they're being smart about it, but it's not only being smart. They're doing really good versions of these old tracks. And this is one of their latest ones on Soma track series. Volume 6 is the name of it actually. So that means there's been a bunch of them before. I don't know, I've obviously missed a couple of these as well. Well, I guess maybe when I say remix, maybe not. Like they're probably only really using the vocal sample from that, no other elements. But the original was sparse enough as well. Alright, nice added master line here as well. Now moving on to the flip, we've got one called Vapor. This would possibly be some people's pick. The record. Big tune. You can't really argue with that. Cool. Slam, that's called Vapor. Very nicely done. Now, moving on, we've got one from Alden, Tyrell and Ben Sims. This is Club Lonely number 5. Now, is that the name of the label? God, this is all far too confusing for me. There's like so much stuff being said here. I don't want to stop the record and ruin your enjoyment, but just, yeah, I can't. There's a bit of a mention of Jack Tracks 1 and 2, which, okay, are Ben Sims' tunes, okay. Alden Tyrell's are Foot Control and Make a Clap. Okay, that's Make a Clap. Yeah, that's the one I've been playing the most, and the one before that was Foot Control. Club Lonely number 5. So is the name of the label Club Lonely? We'll just take it that it is for now. And I'll do a very quick scan of for the cat number, which I can't see on this. Right, anyway, I'm not going to waste time with that. Yeah, it is Club Lonely CL05. It's on the record. So some good Jack tracks from both producers here. These are the Ben Sims ones. Yeah, Ben's starting to get a good lot of stuff out now again. He does that actually. He gets lots of records out all at once. Then he kind of not disappears, but he kind of goes quiet again, and then all of a sudden there's a bunch more stuff that comes out. I kind of like the way he does it actually. Yeah, some good Ben Sims stuff out at the moment. We've got another one to come. Yeah, fairly bare actually for him. Okay, nice little vocal bit in there. Yeah, a little bit stripped back for Ben Sims compared to some other stuff I've heard of in the last couple of years. So that's Club Lonely number 5. We've had Pessimist, as I said earlier. Let's move on. This one is from Sev Dah, who is another Swedish producer. And this is on his own label, I believe, Proletarijat. Is that right? Proletarijat. I could be completely off there. I like the artwork on each of these releases actually. Every release comes in a plastic sort of PVC sleeve, but then you've got this nice insert that comes in as well. Yeah, certainly one for a big system that. Yeah, and it gathers more momentum as the track goes on. A little bit crackly there, possibly because I've been playing this and throwing it and flinging it around the place. Need to get that clean actually. Similar to the other side, I gotta say, but yeah, bleepy now, and then it kind of gets into the break here a little bit earlier, which is part of the reason I probably favoured this one as well. But certainly the bleeps helped as well. And then we've got this little bit here as well. Right, so that's Sev Dah. And moving on now, we've got one by Complete Walkthru. And I forget what the guy's name is. It's an American producer. This is Dara Carolan's label, or it's on Dara Carolan's label called First Second. We're doing some very interesting stuff. Max McFerrin. I was going to say Bobby McFerrin actually, but no, Max McFerrin. playing actually the most. Again, a little bit of a UK tinged track, but I don't know. Somehow, I'm kind of slightly reminded of Thomas Bangalter's old roulette stuff as well. Yeah, pretty smart use of brakes in this. Works well. Very energetic track. And really nicely produced as well, really kicks well in a sound system. And onto the lip, a bit deeper. Smart job from this guy. Complete Walkthru is the name that he uses, which is an alias. Kind of slightly weirder Chicago sound off that one. So moving on. And we've got a double pack this time on Rave or Die. And we'll start with Umwelt's track, the label owner. Yeah, Umwelt's been hard to miss over the last few years. Of course, he has been making music for many, many years. And he's one of the... he's arguably one of the best French electro techno producers, and certainly one of my favourites in the whole techno and electro scene. He's always making very high quality stuff, always. Yeah, and he's going for electro this time actually. The last one, Slave to the Rave. I'm sure a lot of you will know that one from Rave or Die 7. Actually, well, probably all of you don't know about that release was that initially he had done an electro track for that, and then I don't know, I gave him a kind of a heavyish techno ravey thing, and then he probably just says, right, I'm gonna take him out now with a fucking heavy distorted techno tune, which he did. But yeah, he's a very versatile producer. Bass heavy electro one. So some of his stuff can be a bit more melodic, a little riffier, but this one is kind of just it's just all very much about the bass pressure, which is what the label is really starting to get known for, I think. Now this one is by the Hacker, and it's called Wave of Darkness, and this is one anytime I've played it recently, people have asked me what it is, and it's great to see the Hacker back actually, because of course he is one of the kings of the rave techno thing, if we can call it that, in the late 90s, early 2000s, and then I suppose he tasted maybe not commercial success, but close to it. With both his own music, but especially with Miss Kitten. And then his career, it kind of, I don't know where it went then exactly, but it certainly, profile-wise, he did seem to not be as high profile. He kind of disappeared for a while, but now he's back doing stuff like this as well. coincidental, perhaps. But yeah, very, very mover PCP influenced, it would seem. But an absolute killer from the Hacker. I usually play pitched up a little bit more, but yeah, it's certainly a very popular tune at the moment. Moving on now, the Mover. This is actually an old track of his called Invisible Space, but it's been remastered for this. Yeah, a little bit of a Mover classic, this one. Shit there from the Mover, great. This one's from Minimum Syndicate. And a couple of French producers who I hold in very high regard. And it's great to see them getting the credit they deserve over the last few years. These guys were making music, I think each in their own right, before they came together as Minimum Syndicate. But the Minimum Syndicate project started somewhere around 2007-ish. I remember it wasn't far off the time that Ancient Method started as well. And I remember when those two acts started at that time, it seemed to signal something, maybe not new that was happening, but certainly a little bit of a tip back towards the harder, ravier, acidy side of things that had been kind of getting ignored for a while up to then. But yeah, Minimum Syndicate been doing their thing solidly for, I guess, 10 years now actually. And watch out for, well, they've done, they did that one on Tripalium Rave series, which I didn't get in time for this, but we'll probably we will have on the next episode. But also watch out for the next Minimum Syndicate release on their own label, which will be coming soon, which I have the pleasure of sharing with them. They're on one side, I'm on the other. Quite looking forward to that. And that will actually only be Minimum Syndicate 9, so it's actually taken them quite a few years to get all those releases out, but I like that they don't over-release. So, that one, Rave or Die, like I said. Now, next up is Tripeo, and this is the 8 Trip. I think most people know who Tripeo is, it's Dark OSer. Part of the excellent Storm Rosa club in Holland. One of the best clubs in Holland. Indeed, maybe one of the best clubs in Europe. He's a busy guy. He DJs a lot. He's been quiet on the Tripeo front, has to be said, but he's been busy doing stuff with his other label, Wolf School. Is that how I say it? Wolf School. Yeah, it's kind of almost like Mike Parker, but with more rolling 909 drums in it. Nice one there. Yeah, but this is the first Tripeo record in quite a while. He was getting, you know, a lot of them out, and then he kind of went quiet for a little while. Yeah, a little bit more bare, that one. that's the newest Tripeo release. Now, DJ Deep, I don't know what the outer cover is for this one. Is this as well? Let me check what label this is. Chaos Theory. Rolling groove. Yeah, and it's something I've kind of thinking about recently, you know, that there really isn't as much of that kind of rolling funk driven techno around as I'd like sometimes. I think it was recently I was playing maybe playing a DJ Skull record that I'd also played on this, and just realising that there could really be more of more records like this around. Where people will genuinely swing their hips a little. It's a little, and I find with some of these kind of records, I end up going back to older ones more and more because I'm not finding as much of this style or the similar style to records like this out there. So it's always a nice, it's always quite welcome. What I would call when more groove-based stuff comes out. DJ Tool, that one. So it's just a little bit of kind of builds. Yeah, the hi-hat pattern seems to shift a bit. Those kind of slightly phased sort of sharp hats coming back in again near the end. And as well, if you've noticed that in there's a vocal lurking in the background a little bit too. Just gives it a little bit more depth overall. Yeah, smart job from DJ Deep. And that's on a label called Chaos Theory. Now, where we go to? Yeah, this guy. Leo Anibaldi. These are old tracks actually. And here, let's go to the flip because those ones are a little bit harder. I think overall this whole record sort of reminds me a little bit of old 808 State, especially on this side actually, from what I remember. I'm not too sure how old these are. Leo Anibaldi is doing stuff since definitely since the early 90s, and over the last few years a good lot of his old stuff has been getting reissued. He's from Rome, and yeah, you might put him together with old producers like Sandro Galli or Laurie D or and what's her friend's name? Why am I not thinking of his name? I'll think of it in a second. There's somebody else I'm meaning to mention there as well. Oh, my mind's gone blank. Anyway, happens sometimes. bangers there. Certainly you can link what he did to other producers like Robert Armani as well. Like if you look at labels like ACV and stuff from back then, some of these producers were putting out like loads of records on that label. This one is a banger. It's from Endlec and it's on New York Trax. Endlec stuff, he kind of just doesn't give a fuck basically, and he goes for it, you know. I like that there's no he's not trying to smooth over or, you know, make you think he's something he's not on these tracks. He's really just going for the juggler, and they're really great to play out in the club. Yeah, certainly of the newer wave of hard techno producers, and you know, in ways I don't like to label someone as a hard techno producer, because I think sometimes that can be a bit dismissive of people who make techno in a harder style, as if it's all they're capable of, or as if hard techno is kind of a little bit lower down the chain than other styles of techno, which to be honest has been a very subtle put down for harder techno over the years, from various media outlets and journalists. But you know, let's call a spade a spade. It is on the harder end of techno, closer to waveform transmission 1 era Jeff Mills. Yeah, great energy of them. From what I gather as well, Endlec, he's quite prolific as well. He makes a lot of stuff. There's a lot of his records. He has a lot of records out. He's brought out a lot of stuff in a short space of time. Greek producer, who some of you may have seen stuff on Moored, but this one's on New York Trax, and it's well worth picking up. Right now, it's nice as well to be playing a lot of stuff on upcoming labels as well, who are building up some form. That one's on, like I said, on New York Trax, who I put into that category. This one is on Oak Records, or Oaks at least, and this is Hector Oaks' label. This one is by a producer called Prostitutes, and I used to think the name was fucking stupid when I heard it first, I gotta say. I just thought, come on man, can you not think of something better than that? Like, it's a really crap name, but I don't care. I love his music actually. This is, I forget the name of this one, but this is his label, and you know, it's kind of taken a few records, and now I kind of don't mind the name Prostitutes. It's, yeah, whatever. Sometimes a name can kind of, I don't know what it is at the beginning. If you don't like a name, you kind of go to yourself, Jesus, that guy's an asshole or whatever, and you don't really give their music a chance. But I have given his music a chance, and I really like it. This is on Hector Oaks' label, like I said. Yeah, some amount of crazy energy in this one. One of my favourite tracks at the moment. It does sound like it kind of borrows slightly from Ancient Methods. Maybe or maybe not. It doesn't really matter. What he does here is fairly serious. industrial. Maybe wouldn't sound out of place on a Sonic Groove release. Big drum layer comes in, you really know all about it. There's a really good separation to the sounds. Like I said, you know, most of the tracks are very much based on the drums. There's a lot of power there. Like I said, a nice separation between everything. Not bad. Right, moving on. Actually, I've got there's 3, I think, Hector Oaks ones here. Which is the one? Yeah, I think this is the one I've been playing. It actually sounds a little bit like old coal dust stuff, actually. I'm sure it isn't intended, but certainly the first bit sounds a little bit like old coal dust, which was John Knuckle and Mike Humphries. But then it goes into this. Yeah, it's kind of like a looped horror string or something as the lead there. Nice stuff. The drums on this kind of remind me a little bit of Steve Rackmeld, actually, and I'm pretty sure actually this is the one I've been playing out of these two. Yeah, nice job from Hector Oaks on this. Now he's had a few out in quick succession, so this is number 3, the Prostitutes one is number 4, and then the one in my hand is number 5. Yeah, but watch out for this guy. He's already had a fair few records out, but he's definitely building up a lot of momentum at the moment. And he's also DJing around a lot as well, so yeah, watch out for him. Hector Oaks is a Spanish producer and DJ. This is his newest one then. So there's actually 2 Hector Oaks ones I've played here. Cadency even is the other alias he's using at the moment, or is the alias he uses for his other project. This is him under his own name on his own label, which is called Oaks, and all of them are on nice clear vinyl from what I can see so far. Moving on to the flip there. Hector Oaks, like I said. Moving on, here's one by Randomer and Clouds. We'll start with the Cloud side. This is on their own label called Headstrong, which is a nice that Clouds were running. I don't know if it's still running. I know I played at one of the first ones, which was at least 2 years ago now, I would say. And I know Randomer kind of became or was a resident at it, and since then they have now gone a step further in their link or partnership by setting up a label together, so called Headstrong. meandering. Last one's a little bit more broken rhythm. This one's a little bit more straight ahead. So that's Kaoz. Good job from them. Then on to Randomer. Detailed sound, randomer stuff. Gradually more chaotic. So that's Headstrong number 1. That's one of the randomer tracks. Like I said, Clouds are on the other side there. This one, you know what? I could have brought the whole box set with me. Well, I didn't. It's the Moored box set, the second box set. There's lots of people on it. But what I did was I took the records that had my favourite track on it, basically. Not a million miles away from that Bleaching Agent track that was on Resin a few years ago, actually. What was it called? Oh, I forgot the name. Something or other. Applens or something like that. I don't know. By Oliver Rosemann, that's on Moors. Like I said, I could have been playing all 7 records, could have been here for a while, so really what I did there was I picked out my favourite track of it. There's a few, what else is on this one actually? Scalamaria and VSK. And their one is pretty good. I think Oliver Rosemann takes it on this stuff. That one's on Moors as part of the box set, new box set that's out. This one is by Gonzo MDF. Munich producer. This is on Counterweight. They run a good night over in Munich. Now I'm pretty sure, I'm trying to think of how long I've had this record. What sort of happens sometimes with these videos is they're meant to be for every 3 months, but really I sometimes amass so many records, and then all of a sudden I'm looking at ones and I'm going, did I play that on the video? And usually I didn't, but I have to double check. Now as I'm playing this, I'm wondering, did I? I don't think I did actually. Good acidy stuff there. There's an Endlec remix on this. Is that the Endlec remix? I've been definitely playing that one. It doesn't really matter. I think that's the Endlec. No, yeah, that was the Endlec remix. think I mentioned it before. I was playing at these guys' night over in Roteson in Munich, and this guy Gonzo, he's actually also done a read. I think I mentioned this here before. He did a really good edit of Visage Fade to Grey, actually. A really good techno version of it. That he should probably release, to be honest, but might be just for his DJ sets though. Yeah, that's Gonzo MDF. Watch out for that one. That's on Counterweight. Now, moving on, we've got one on Fossil Archive. This one is by Roberto. Yeah, and as I was talking earlier about groove-based techno, it has a little bit of a pep to it, or a little bit of a groove. Roberto is definitely someone who does. Yeah, I really enjoyed this one. I found it a really good transition tune actually over the last while. To take things off in another direction. Onto the flip. And isn't it good to have a one sheet press release here as well? You don't see it as much nowadays. Well, you don't actually tend to get vinyl promos or white labels the way you used to. Certainly I appreciate the ones that people send to me, and it's even more impressive when you get the one sheet in it as well. It's like vinyl in terms of people calling it old school. These one sheets are probably a little bit old school as well. But nice to see that somebody's taking that kind of care of what they do. Yeah, a bit more straight ahead. It's more about the A side there for me. Good one from him. That's on Fossil Archive. Moving on, what we pick out here. Trying to think of something a little different to what we just had. This one is on Ectotherm, and this is by a guy called Shaka. This is a Danish label actually. We haven't had too many releases so far. This is the fourth one. This energy, fairly pacey stuff. Yeah, particularly like this one. This is the one I've been kind of playing the most. I find it, yeah, I find it in the cloud. It's a good one actually to start to bring up just as you're closing in towards the end of a set, especially. It's good to start getting the pressure going, I suppose. I find more and more now I'm doing longer sets, so there's different stages where you kind of bring it up. You bring it up, but you'll might bring it back down again, and then bring it back up again, or whatever it might be. But certainly tracks like this I find useful for that. That's it as its normal speeds. You know, you could certainly play slower. You could play faster as well, but it's smart job. Yeah, it's all about that bit. flip. There's been a lot of talk recently about, you know, techno getting faster and people playing at certain faster tempos and all of this. Yeah, it's I suppose it's a natural progression. The BPMs go up and down over the years. Sometimes feel there's a little bit too much made of BPMs and speeds than there needs to be. You know, oh, you played your set at 140 BPM, you didn't play it at 130 BPM, you're a hero, you know, like, whatever. But it does mean that, or not that it does mean, it is interesting to see that more people are actually putting out these records at that kind of speed now, because for a while you wouldn't see many people, but if they were playing tracks at that speed, it would always be old tracks that they'd be playing. But now in the case of this record, for instance, or this producer, you know, they're fairly pacey, you know, and this is a record that's coming out in 2017, so it's good to see some labels and some producers that actually are upping the tempos again, and not just leaning into their collection or tracking down records on Discogs just because they can't get stuff at that speed today. So, you know, if you like playing 140 plus BPM in your sets, you know, it's good to make or release some of those tracks today. So certainly from what I can see with Echo Term so far, they're going towards that, which is higher BPMs than some of the other techno labels that are around at the moment. And this is by Shaka, like I said. Bass heavy kind of stuff. A nice lingering atmosphere there. Right, moving on now. This one is by Aiken. It's on Non-Series. Yeah, this is the one I think I've been playing. Again, it's sort of from the sort of Mike Parker school of things. Pretty nicely done, actually. I don't think you'd find Mike Parker putting that extra little sound in there, so it's got a little bit of a slant on that sound, and a little bit more top end as well, or hi-hats than you would get in a Mike Parker tune. But certainly the overall spaced out sound is a bit like that. Could even compare it to Jeff Mills. Now moving on to the flip. Useful tracks on that one. Now this one is from Talker. This is on their own label, Standprac. The standard practices, at least, are standard practices, not standard practice. Talker are two American producers called Sev and Carl Meyer. And their Talker stuff has previously appeared on Downwards. This is the one for me. This one I've been playing a lot actually recently. almighty sounding. Sounds really enormous when you play it on a sound system. It just ripples through the whole place. One of those ones as well, because it builds so much like that. It's like when you mix something else into it, it's certainly not a tune that you're going to mix out of fast. You have to be kind of very respectful to that lead, because it's the kind of one that people really lock into actually. So you have to, you have to be, I wouldn't say careful, but you have to, I wouldn't say it about a lot of tracks, but you have to be respectful to this track when you play out of it. Make sure that the blend is somewhat seamless. Yeah, moving on. We've got a couple of others, and thanks a lot, Carl. This one is by Stave. I'm not sure of the label here actually. Pretty rugged stuff. Gradually more angry near the end there. Now I can't work out what the label is actually. AIIA is the catalog number. I'll find out later. Yeah, see, there's another record like where we could put it on 45 on one side when the other side is 33. Nice little intro on it actually. See, that could work at 33 as well. Yeah, distorted but still cleanly produced. And there is a fine line sometimes with getting that sound good. This one is also by Stave, and this is the second release on Standard Practices. So we're playing, unlike some other episodes of this, we're actually playing a few back to back on the same label, which I don't think we've really done before like this, but I just figured there are a few labels like this and like Oaks as well, where I've got multiple of them at once, where they've come out in relatively quick succession. Sure, might as well just all lob them on together. So yeah, as you can hear, like these are very drum dominated, but also with a little bit of a metal edge to them as well. Now moving on to the This is probably the pick on this record. Alien sounding weirdness there. It's weird when we say alien-like as well, because like unless we've encountered aliens, and maybe some of us have, maybe some of us haven't, but we don't. Do we know for sure what an alien sounds like? We definitely know what we imagine them to sound like when we hear what one. Or a weird sound that doesn't quite sound human, so it can be easy to label that as being alien-like. Yeah, kind of a little bit of an unfriendly alien actually. I would imagine that some aliens are nice enough, but some of them probably aren't so nice, aren't so pleasant. And these ones that you hear here are the latter, I think. Stuttered. No closing that one out, so that's standard practices. So we got a good feel of stave, talker and standard practices stuff there. They've got one big release coming out soon as well that has Regis and Surgeon and Broken English Club, and maybe somebody else doing remixes. Well, certainly those three anyway. This one is on a label called High Mobility Weapons Unit. I know nothing about the label other than that. That's the name of the artist and of the label, as is common these days. Mega Particle Cannon EP is the name of the record, and it's a white label thing with a sticker on it. There's a second little vocal playing off the first one there. It was a little bit heavier. Sorry, Tim telling me there's some water here, but I didn't know where he was pointing to, but I've found it now. Thanks, Tim. Going on in the background, we're doing our best. It's usually Tim has to tell me something, and we're trying to do it subtly without anybody noticing. But who cares, really? You know what I mean? But no, it is. We'd like to do these things subtly, but anyway, I've found the water now. That's the main thing. I like this one actually. Yeah, it's good. It's a good little sugar to this thing. Not too sure who the producer is. Seem to know what they're doing. Like a good few tracks that I played today. They are on the loopy side, but they fairly useful. And that one, as I said, is High Mobility Weapons Unit. Now moving on, we've got one from Johannes Heil. I don't know where the outside sleeve went. It's actually in a black outer sleeve with this inner red one. Or jacking by the end. Jesus, when did he give? He gives us a clap there, right? Jesus, could you not have given us a clap somewhere earlier? You get one there, which is about like 3/4 of a way through the tune when it's finishing. Fair enough. I don't think that was the one I was playing anyway. More classic sounding here. I want to clap a little bit earlier. Has a little bit of a touch of the Scorp, Steve Rackmond, Ignacio vibe off it almost. On the flip, yeah, I think it was pretty much this one, which is more classic Johannes Heil sound. Go for it. Certainly people who like his older material and the Paranoid Dancer era stuff are probably starting to warm to his recent material, because it's definitely going back in that direction. remember when Johannes Heil's records started coming out. He was like this young prodigy, really. He was well, you assumed he was young at the time. That's I think. Yeah, it's funny because you'd be going into record shops and you would hear the opinion of someone in the record shop who would give you like a very short description of or opinion of the producer, be it where they're from or that they're 18 or that whatever it is, and you just get these small little snippets about somebody, you know. And I think back then I just heard this young German producer, this kind of young prodigy, I suppose, and he banged them out back then. He got so many records out. He's banged them out today as well. This is on his label Exile. Does he run this with Marcus Sukkot? I think he might. Good label anyway. There's a Jerome Search one on this as well recently. So moving on now. This one is by Andréasson. Who sadly passed away. I think it was earlier this year, actually, wasn't it? We've certainly mentioned that on the show, and we played some of his material. Is it even last year? It could be last year now, actually. But it just shows how much stuff he has made, because there have been records continually coming out since his passing. And the thing about Andréasson as well, he fulfilled a very important role, which was carrying on the Cologne acid sound from people like Rob Acid. He isn't of that Labworks era, but the music he made is certainly of that ilk. It's on a label called Suspected. Yeah, it's got one of those cool sketches as well that are on some of his records. Yeah, nice kind of chirping acid on that one. No acid on that one. Here on this one. Yeah, welcome acid line there. Alright, so watch out for that. Andréasson, good one by him. Now, here's one by Batu, and this is on Hessel Audio. these little beatless jobbies here. Now moving on to the flip. Yeah, for me this was the more interesting of the tracks. Nice detailed drum programming. Yeah, definitely a nice oddness to this one. Springy kind of kick and bass. Yeah, one for the later hours maybe this. Definitely fits well in the tradition of Hessel sounding stuff. Strip back, but everything doing its job cleverly at least. Now, so that's the one by Batu. This one is by another Hessel affiliate, one of the three guys that runs Hessel, Panagia. Now, in this case, he took on a couple of classics, but particularly this one, Nomad Devotion. And you know, it has to be said, it's not very easy to take something like this and put a fresh slant on it. He's definitely done it here. Now, it looks like one of these, maybe it's this, or maybe it's the Lolita Holloway one on the other side, will be coming on Sal Soul soon. And actually, as we record this, there's a bit of an interesting news story that broke this week about Leroy Burgess's one of his songs being covered, or at least re-edited or remixed by Marcus Hawkes. And for some reason, rather than go to the producer himself or to the label that released it, he decided to put up a Facebook post pretty much berating Marcus Hawkes, but kind of starting his post in a way that was letting everyone know how respectful he was being in what he was going to say. But really, that was just a cover for a quite disrespectful post, in my opinion. He didn't like the remixes, fair enough, but you know, why make that public? You know, if there's plenty of producers who don't like remixes that were done of them, but they don't take to Facebook for it. You know, I don't want to come across ageist here, but it does seem sometimes people of a certain age sometimes, I don't know, they just don't play the internet very well sometimes. They just get a little bit overly dramatic, and maybe I am being slightly ageist there, but certainly when it comes to some of this stuff that tends to spill over into social media land, involving producers of a certain age, it often gets far more dramatic than it needs to be, and a lot of it comes down to being, hey, do you know who I am, what I've done, all this kind of stuff, I deserve more respect, my opinion's better than yours, my music's better than yours, etc, etc. And I kind of think that's what happened here, and it's unfortunate because Leroy Burgess is a great, but it's a shame that he had to, regardless of if the remixes are good or bad, I really thought it was very pointless of him to start making this public, and then also admitting that he hadn't even spoken directly with the people at the label about it who released the remixes. It isn't like Marcus Hawkes did a bootleg of these tracks and released them unofficially. They were released officially. Now I don't know if Leroy Burgess still holds the rights to that music. It sounds maybe like he doesn't, because he says he didn't even approve the re-edits or the remixes. So I don't know what's going on there. I don't know what kind of contract there was between them, but it does seem like it was blown out of proportion. And I think with Marcus Hawkes as well, he is somebody that's come under fire for some other bits and pieces as well that there's no point going into here, but I just think, you know, it's very easy to jump on a producer and then every time after that just start kicking him, you know. And I think whatever you might think of the name he uses, or the fact that he names one of his EPs after a housing estate in Chicago and all this kind of stuff, you know, that's another day's work and conversation. But really, why? I don't know. I just think there needs to be slightly less drama over stuff that just where there is no drama, basically. And it seems that very small little things get magnified, and then people like Marcus Hawkes are the worst people on earth. And really, all he did was just do a couple of remixes that he was asked to do by a label, it seems. And then he just gets shitted on by the original producer. I just thought it was fairly unprofessional, to be honest. I think one of the things as well, he says his voice was transposed down a fifth or something like this, and you're just like, man, imagine if this had got in the hands of somebody making another genre of music. They would have no respect for your vocal. It would sound nothing the way it was meant to. You know, somebody might glitch your like he gives out about delay and echo on either on the master or on some of the elements, and that it was disguising the original groove or whatever. I'm just thinking, man, what if you put this in the hands of many other producers? It would sound nothing like the original. You know, that's why it's called a remix. But anyway, who knows? Was it a re-edit? Was it meant to be a remix? Who knows? But yeah, enough of that. Anyway, getting back to Pangea, because I've literally let most of this side play without talking about it. This is the Lolita Holloway his re-edit, his mix of Lolita Holloway Stand Up, and that was just a self-released white label, I think. By Stephen Mahoney, who's building up good momentum with his label Shelter Records. I'm not too sure who's it. This is the Lee Holman remix. Definitely sounds like it. Is that a million miles away from Rod Had style techno track that we had before? Track off it by Stephen. Probably the one of two useful tracks from him here. It's one of those ones you play, but you just have to be ready for the fact that it's going to end early enough. But nice rhythm on that. Nice distortion on this as well. So that's on his label Shelter Records. I think I've got another one on that label too. This one is by Jack Peoples, aka James Stinson. Who used the name the other people place, I think. He had a full-length album on Warp back in the day, which I think started going for pretty crazy money. And didn't it get re-released recently? I think it did. There was another 12-inch as well. I think it was one track. It was a split EP, but that was the only material that came out under that alias. But certainly the album is and rightfully considered a bit of a classic. Certainly a more sit down tempo electro style release. But a lot of it still carried a lot of the weirdness of the translucent stuff. Things like weird pitched vocals and stuff coming out of nowhere. Now this is Jack Peoples, and these appear to be, I don't know, leftover tracks. It seems like Clone have got their hands on a huge amount of old Drexia material that they've both re-released, but in the case of this, that they've actually released fresh, that never came out before. And it does bear some of the same hallmarks. Like if you're to put this next to the Translucent album that came out on Supremat at the time, like this wouldn't sound out of place on it. Plenty of other labels you could have expected this to have come out of back then. I'm just imagining if this did come out a little bit later, where would it have appeared? It could it could have appeared on something like Modern Love or AI Records or something like that. Yeah, onto the flip. Honest, I was glad to get this release because of what it was, but there does seem to be something that feels a bit unfinished about some of the tracks. You know, there's just a certain, you can hear it's the same. Well, it sounds like the same producer, but there's just those little moments of magic that aren't quite there. They almost sound like the shell of what the finished, better known tracks of that project were that got released, but this under the name Jack Peoples don't seem to quite hit the spot as well. Like this one, for instance, it doesn't really do anything other than lose a sound and then bring that one in. Okay, that's nice. But that's about it, really. It's got his trademark zapping snare there, but that's really about it. They're unique. They've got their own sounds, but it certainly doesn't hit those highs the classic James Stinson or Drexciya related projects did. Now, moving on, this one is one on Soma actually. These are remixes of, are they all of Step Back? No, this one is by Gary Beck of Bad Coffee. You can hear a little bit of the string from the original. It's just getting filtered out there. And Bad Coffee was an absolute killer track. I like to hear that he's used some of the same elements anyway. Well, it is a remix, but it's interesting when there's a track you haven't heard in a while and you hear an interpretation of it. It's the Oscar Malero. Oh no, this isn't the Oscar Malero. This is the Tensal remix. Is one half of Axiom, I believe. So decent. That was one of Positive Education. So decent enough job from both of them there. Oh no, that was the Antigone remix. The next one is by Oscar Malero, which for me is the pick on this record. And one of the better things I've heard from Oscar actually in a while. I haven't really been following his stuff as much as I used to. For me, the high points of his music was probably around 2011, that kind of time. I felt he reached a real peak, and it happens with a lot of producers. They do reach a little bit of a peak. Now he does get some good tracks out here and there, but for me, like I said, some producers just reach a real high point, and they don't always necessarily get back to that. They maybe start doing something else or something a little bit different. To me, even though this is a remix, it is a little bit of a return to form for Oscar Malero. Actually, I like what he does on it. Yeah, it was always my favourite old school slam track. Nice to hear a remix by Malero on this one. Now, this one is Tensal. It's one of the guys from Axiom, as I said. And he's banging them out the last while as well. He's had a lot of records. Right. Good job there, actually. What's the who's that a remix of? That's a remix of Slam Dark Forces. Okay. Now this one is Jack Trax on Wax. This is by a bunch of I think, are they all Swedish? It's TSR and Joseph Garber. It's a new label of theirs, I believe. Is the name of the game here.
We're private people. We don't want attention. We just prefer it if there was no fuss. Enough.
Okay, so that's... yeah, so kind of overdriven drums and squawking acid. So that one is on Jack Trax on Wax is the name of the label, or yeah, it seems to be. Now moving on, we've got one by a person called DJ Slingshot, and this is on Secret Sundays. And yeah, this is all fine and that. Yeah, all very nice, but it's this one actually that I was going for. It actually, it's not too dissimilar of something that might have come out on Good Life or a label like that, which actually brings me to who I think it really sounds like, which is maybe a little bit like Kevin Saunderson or someone actually, like something on an old KMS record. Was down a little bit there, up into a vocal, but then back into the lead. For me, that's the pick there. That's on Secret Sundays, and that's by DJ Slingshot. As I said, it's a good name as well. And the sling as well, according to this, is spelt with a Y, SLYNGSHOT. I wonder why that was. Maybe there is a DJ Slingshot already in existence. This one is on Clone Basement Series, and it's by Alden Tyrell. It's interesting with him because he certainly had his own sound years ago, and then he kind of came back and started doing more Chicago-y stuff and stuff that kind of fits the time of now, I guess, and he's doing it very well. Like, this could easily be a Mike Denner record, but it's actually Alden Tyrell, I think. The name isn't actually on the record, but from what I remember, it was Alden Tyrell. So, kind of pumped up basic channel-y record, but done quite well. That's on Clone Basement Series, as I said. Now, this one, yeah, we got one by Paul Birkin here. This is out a good while, and really I should have had this on the show before, so glad to have it on now. Now, Surfing Superior was it Paul's first release? It was certainly an early one that he did on Communique way back in the day, mid-90s, but he did a part 2. And this came out on TSR Records, who we were just talking about there a minute ago, their record label. And I like that he's kind of he's going for slower BPMs on this. And Paul's he's a playful producer that actually. Hearing him make stuff at slower BPMs is yeah, it makes sense. It's good. It's a good fit. Paul Birkin doing techno and acid at a lower BPM allows more weird shit to spill out, basically. Onto the flip. And the thing about Paul, and I've said it before on this, is he mightn't be the first guy that will get name checked all the time, but really he's an exceptionally influential producer, and he's one of those producers that so many other producers agree on. He's got his own sound, it's weird, and yeah, when it comes to especially distortion in techno, he's someone that's really mastered his sound and influenced others with it as well. Right, now moving on. Reverbs as well. There can be sometimes the tunes, the kick drum sounds very up close, but there's a bit more distance with the rest of the elements, or sometimes with the whole track actually in some cases. Like a pure mid-90s acid thing. Machine jammed concoctions on that. That's Paul Birkin's Surfing Superior Volume 2. Moving on, Ben Sims on Deeply Rooted House, which is a good fit for him actually. Oh, it's actually called Deeply Rooted now actually. It's acid cut there. That was a nice bounce in Ben Sims' tracks. How he DJs as well. One of the best out there, without doubt. Acidy. So far. It's a bit like old Oliver Howe there actually. Ben Sims on Deeply Rooted, watch out for that one. This one, I think I had this last time but I didn't actually play it, and this is by Matthew Johnson. And if you remember the whole minimal thing that took over techno between about 2003, 2004 till about 2007, there were actually a couple of good tracks that came out during those 4 or 5 years. Not many now, but a few. And Decompression was one of them, and it wasn't even really strictly minimal the way a lot of other stuff was. It didn't fall into that same bracket, but he was certainly one of those producers that was in that scene, but in a sense his music was kind of trying something outside of that. And Decompression, which was on Richie Houghton's label. See, this was the funny thing about it was it did Richie Houghton and that whole sound, the minus thing, it spawned so many copycats and I think over time some of the artists on his label, or who did the occasional record for it, they weren't actually doing that sound, but they were immediately typecast. So unless you were really listening to everything, it could be very easy to dismiss some of the people on the label as just being that plinky plonk minus sounds. But Matthew Johnson certainly wasn't someone who you put in that bracket. And Wagon Repair as well, which I think is his label, him and his brother, I think, they were also doing some great records on that label too. So it was some of the better, it really was probably the best stuff that was coming out at that time, through that kind of scene, I suppose we'll call it. Now these are remixes. This is a Conrad. Is this a Conrad Black one? Yes, I think. Or is it the ambivalent one? No, I think this is a Conrad Black one. And actually, he's someone whose name I haven't seen from since back then. A little bit like Troy Pierce, or did I see him pop up somewhere recently? Maybe somebody mentioned him, I can't remember, but somebody putting a bit more of a jungle injection into this. You're gonna have a hard job flipping that original or improving on the original. Now I think this is the ambivalent remix. Breaks it up a little bit. I think out of all the remixes we've heard so far, he seems to have he's attempted to do something a bit more intricate. Yeah, he's flipped this nicely actually. You can definitely, as the track progresses, you can hear more of the elements of the original coming in. They're a little bit more micro-sized at the beginning. But yeah, nice job from him. If this, I think this one is ambivalent. He's done a smart job there. Okay, so that, yeah, actually it works in that style, yeah. Who's that one by? Nathan Johnson. Is he a relation to Matthew Johnson? Not sure. Okay, that kind of makes sense actually. Kind of one that could do with a side all of its own, where a lot of drum and bass tracks tend to have. Yeah, not a bad one. That's on Freedom Engine, and that's Freedom Engine number 1, and that's Matthew Johnson, the Decompression remixes. So moving on, Chris Wadsworth. Now I think there's a few of these that have come out. I tried ordering a couple at once, and I think I only got one of them. But this one is on his label Breed. He's definitely gone a tougher route recently. Very like that, I forget the name of it, that old DJ Slip track. I'm sure people know it. I forget the name. Yeah, bends around a bit. This one's a little bit different actually for the record. Bass pressure in there. Pressing a lead over the top. So that's Chris Wadsworth on Breed, which is his label, and I'm sure there's at least one or two more out on that on that label since. Now let's move on. This actually is on Insulate. Insulate, is that how I say so her name was formerly Miss Sunshine, but her name now is Insulate or Insulate or Insulat. I'm not too sure. This is her label called Out of Place. Here we have Developer doing his stripped back. Bleepy. It's almost like a more modern version of Jeff Mills. It's almost like, and I'm not too sure how developers making his tracks, but it's kind of almost like Jeff Mills in a computer or something. The style is just a little bit more polished or digital sounding slightly. I could be completely wrong. He might make all of his stuff on a drum machine and a synth, physical ones, but there is a lot of that kind of Jeff Mills sounding stuff that's around still. So many people doing it, but of the people that are, yeah, developer can sometimes be a good bet. Bass pressure on that, quite loopy, but picks up in the right places. Now, this one is by Alien Rain. Jesus, I'm actually very forgetful today. I don't know why. Oh yeah, Milton Bradley is the dude's name. From Berlin. This one sounds massive when you play it out, actually. People really react. I kind of felt the Alien Rains were going off the boil for a little while on the label itself. But this one, on Out of Place, is one of the best Alien Rain tracks I've heard in a while, actually. Yeah, it sounds good. Yeah, moving on. Go to Paul Brother. Let's see. This one is by Machine Woman. This is on Technicolor. So you've had the speed right there. No. Underlying vocal that sort of lunges in and out here and there. So there's a kind of slightly off-kilter feel to this one. Yeah. There's a kind of an awkwardness to it, but at the same time all the elements seem to gel together well. Now on the flip. Yeah, again, some good stuff been done with the vocals here. Reminds me slightly of Acufan or something like that. Are on a deeper side. There is a nice weirdness. Is that meant to be 33 or 45? Seems to be having been a few records here. I think it's 45. Oh, this one's really mad. So yeah, quite an individual 3-tracker there from Machine Woman. It's on Technicolor, which is, I think, the Ninja Tune sub-label, actually. Okay, let's move things along. Here's one on West Norwood's cassette library. We Are Family, Volume 3. This one's by Caldera. Kinda like something you might hear on Alien tape. Slightly shed, head high influence maybe. This one is from J Tyne. Sounds like a kind of drum machine jam. And then onto the flip. Boxwork. Yeah, I think for me this is the pick. Oh, good mixing tracks, but yeah. Where else is one for me? Kevin McAfee. And it sounds like something that could have been on Primeval or something like that years ago. Okay, moving on. Where are we at? This one is on a label called Mint Condition, and these are actually reissued, re-released. It seems like most of the stuff on Mint Condition is stuff that's been re-released, because that last Mystic Bill one that I played on the last episode were older tracks as well. There's so many labels, so many releases coming out now. It's very hard to follow a label the way you used to, you know. Sometimes sometimes labels just pop up and they already have a bunch of stuff out already, and you've actually missed the development of the label already, or you barely don't have any time to find anything out about the label. But see, this is it. There's so much stuff coming out now. There's a lot of people that use a record label purely as promotion, you know. It's not out of an undying love for vinyl, or because they play records, or because they're very attached to the format. It's just, we need to get a record out, and that's fair enough. That's great. It's good the Pressing fans are busy again, but there really is so much stuff coming out, so many releases, and it's hard to, I even think with these videos, I'm only, it's still only a fraction of what's coming out, and sometimes a random fraction as well. There's bits that I'm missing. A lot of the time when I'm buying records as well, it's very much down to the particular day or time of the week, or what week of the month that I've gone heavy on buying stuff, and there could be other weeks or two where I would have picked up different selections. So it's an interesting time, without doubt. But this is the one. Short, just a classic Detroit techno track.
Yeah, there's a place. There's a place where I'm from, where people just know how to do it.
Yeah, this came out in 2005. It was on 7 Sign. She says it in the says it here. Released on 7 Sign Recordings in 2005. And I remember people playing this out back then. I'm not sure if I have the original. Certainly some of the Keith Tucker stuff, which is which in a lot of cases is him doing techno basically, whereas Oggs 88 was very electro leaning, although there's some of the later Oggs 88 stuff could be techno in places as well. Moving on then, let's see what we got. Here's one. Now I'm not too sure when this actually came out. I could be a little bit out of date on this one, but this is on Unintelligence Trax, and it's by FTP Up. So they're like kind of Robert Armani-esque techno tracks with all the high end rolled off basically. And And it's kind of annoying, to be honest, sometimes, I gotta say, because I like a lot of these tracks, but I just think we leave a little bit of high end in, do you know what I mean? Okay, there we've got a little bit of a cleaner, more true life mix, but I don't know, it's sometimes with some of the lo-fi, I don't follow the lo-fi house thing really, but at all actually. I know there is some stuff good stuff coming out here and there, but when things are purposely made sounds underproduced or dusty sounding or whatever, yeah, it can be a little bit frustrating sometimes, because like in a case like, maybe not that one, but like this one, I'm just thinking if that was a little bit brighter, it could sound like a lot better. But in any case, I'm not here to slate this record. I actually like all of the tracks. I just like if they're a little bit more produced, maybe, and not purposely trying to be more underproduced than they actually were. Yeah, the kind of Jack and Chicago fare there. I could be completely wrong. Maybe that's exactly how they came out in the studio, but I wouldn't be so sure. Now, moving on. This one is by Shifted, and this is on Drifting Over. It's kind of like what I was saying earlier about some of the Northern electronic stuff, you know. When you hear some of this at first, it does sound basic enough. Then when you hear them played on a system, they really come alive. You can hear the dynamics. System. Sometimes as well I get a lot of records at once, and there's some that I start playing straight away, and then there's others that I filter in a little bit slower. This would possibly be one of them now, so probably in the coming weeks I'll start to play this one. But sometimes when you get so many records at once, it's kind of impossible to just parachute them all in at once. You kind of start to just play a few, you know, some of them, and then over time then you start filtering them all in. It's actually been, I don't know if it's a problem, but it's been certainly one of the things with doing these videos and getting an awful lot of records. It's very hard to really get the full use or even time out of certain records. When you're just getting so many, it's hard to keep on top of them all, or to filter them into your sets as quickly as you'd like. So the thing with DJing sometimes is going in playing tracks that you're blind to. It's just good to know the tracks a little bit first, and I definitely don't want to be going out playing stuff in a club and I'm playing it for the very first time. It does happen, but it's not always ideal. I like to get a feel for some of the tracks first. This one is by Roy of the Ravers. Great name, actually. A lot of people were asking me about this. I did a mix, a podcast recently for Bassiani. This was the last tune on it, and I think before the track list went up, I must have had about, I don't know, at least 3, maybe 4 messages asking what this track was. I had to pitch down a little bit actually, because it is particularly fast against the other stuff I was playing. Yeah, he's been racking up a fair few actually. There's Roy. This is Acid Waxer, that's the label. For something a bit slower there. And there's good progression in every track as well. It's not just one acid line and a loop. There's usually some other kind of lead sound that's trying to barge in there as well. Onto the flip. This is a fairly epic length, actually. Not too sure how many minutes it is, but it just goes and goes. Yeah, maybe a bit more minimalist in ways. Drops it at nice times though, but the first one on the other side is certainly my pick on that. Supremacy Royale. Now, moving on. This one is from, who's it from? Damon Wild, Subtractive Synthesis. Yeah, it's interesting actually, because he's been doing this stuff for how many years? Over 20 years? Like, if you know any of the other Subtractive Synthesis records, they all sound like this. There's one particularly great one. It's a white vinyl one. I remember, yeah, I used to love that record actually. I remember with some coloured vinyl records, I used to actually put them up, stick them up on my wall actually. That was one of them I remember along with stuff like Code Red and that. It was the kind of coloured vinyl thing was starting to become a thing on techno labels. Obviously there was a lot of them doing it, like some Djax ones were and stuff as well, but there was just a few here and there that would be kind of standing out, like that Subtractive Synthesis ones. Yeah, because I don't think up to then I had any like white vinyl records. There were some that I've got since that were from back then, even earlier than that, but you didn't see too many white vinyls then. So Function Remix, which one is that? Oh, it's post. Oh, right. So we're talking remixes here. So the first one was the Function Remix, and then the Postscriptum Remix. Yeah, okay. And then these two were the Damon Wild ones, right? Okay, that makes sense. So Subtractive Synthesis. Hang on a second now. Now here's one on PVC. And if some of you see the label there, you may remember on my first Boiler Room in London, you might have seen that on my t-shirt. At the time, the label Palitzels from Spherica, sorry, I don't know if my pronunciation is like, but like Numb Records from Bratislava in Slovakia, which I was playing earlier, they come from the same stable of labels, and from out of the same club, which is Sub Club, which used to be known as U Club, which is run by Brano, who is Dallo, aka Lochte Brada's brother. And Brano has done so much behind the scenes there over the years. People mightn't know how much he's actually done, but some of the great things he's done has been running many labels, and doing the bookings in that club, and basically keeping the techno scene safe over there. This tune is by Scalamaria. Sorry man, I know I'm wobbling here a bit. That might keep happening, to be honest, but anyway, Scalamaria, there you go. Yeah, kind of a bit more straight ahead for him, but it works. In a kind of like a Dave Clark Red style almost. And we got one from Lag. One thing I'm thinking about some of Lag stuff as well. It's not a million miles away, like a track like this. To what was the guy Laurence, the other guy out of Radial years ago. He kind of had some of these sort of tricky programmed broken beat things. They're different, but I can kind of hear some similarities too. Slightly unpredictable arrangements. Now going on to the flip, I think we've got Rummenigge, aka oh wait, shit, no, that was the UVB. Yeah, that was the UVB one actually. Yeah, so UVB is who I thought sounded a bit like. And on this side then will be, hang on. Oh fuck, sorry, I'm hang on. Yes, sorry, apologies. That was Rummenigge, the kind of Dave Clarkey one, followed by Lag. And hang on then, Scalamaria then is here. Yeah, sorry. One of those days. So apologies, Scalamaria, for fucking your name up. Only momentarily, I think I got it right in the end. This is your track. And I was kind of wondering, I thought it sounded a bit straighter than normal for Scalamaria. Yeah, a little bit more jagged sounding this. And then followed by jeez, I need to keep checking these. Yeah, followed by UVB. So I was, yeah, initially that one that I was saying was Lag. Scalamaria wasn't Scalamaria, it was Rummenigge, which sounded a little bit like Dave Clark, which is a nice return for Rummenigge. And then on this side we've had Scalamaria and now UVB, who had one also in Numb, which I played earlier. Yeah, good job all round there. That one's on PVC, like I mentioned. Now we're coming close to the end. Let me see. Somatic responses and caustic. Somebody, it's not there. Oh. Now this one is heavy as fuck. And that's it at its normal speed. It actually sounds like there was this distributor from I think Holland, were they? And they were called K-Hole. And a lot of the stuff that they used to put out was like really heavily distorted stuff. Some of it was hardcore. Now, with all due respect to the distributor, I think he may have often been in a K-hole during the week, because it wasn't always the easiest to kind of do business with, you know. Like we wanted to buy records often, but sometimes maybe the things could be a little bit messy. But you know, whatever about people, and this is something to think about as well, whatever about people's business acumen or skills or whatever, you know, a lot of people don't get into this to be business people. They get into it because they just want to give something to the world. They want to represent something. They want to represent that music. And for whatever about K-Hole, the distributor back then, they put out a lot of records then, and some of it wasn't great, but some of it was brilliant as well. So it was just but they were putting out an awful lot of records at the time. And it's like a lot of the time when distributors go down, you know, whoever's running that distribution company is the world's worst. They're an asshole. They've apparently ripped everyone off and all the rest. But really, they're just people who tried their best in a lot of cases, you know, and they just wanted to push the music that they were into that maybe other distributors weren't representing. And yeah, if it's something that I'll remember about distributors like that is there was always the best intent on the part of the people running these companies. But yeah, this kind of reminds me of something we would have got from them, because here and there we would do orders with them and we'd get a lot of very fast. In fact, something like this would even be the lighter end of what would have been coming from them. And this is by what's the name of them? Oh shit, I don't even know the name of the label here. I don't know. There's not much info here. What I do have though is somatic responses, and it looks like it says Caustic Window, but I don't think it is Caustic Windows. Caustic somebody. Anyway, we'll find out more about that at a later point, maybe, or else you can if you want. It's a new one by Somatic Responses and somebody else anyway. This one is by Juniper, I think is the name of the producer in this. There's been lots of Junipers from what well, there's been, at least there was an Irish producer called Juniper, but there's been a few, I think, so I'm not too sure if this is one of them or if it's a new Juniper. A little bit more chill to what we were just listening to. Let me get the label here. It's Me and You, yeah. That's the label there. Are they from Manchester? I don't know why I'm thinking that. I think they are. They're fine, but I think this is the one I'm going for. There's a few more ingredients. A bit more of a groove. Just a few things kind of vying for your attention here. Be nice in the early hours anyway of a DJ set. Maybe in the later hours in whatever their particular club might be. Not in Ireland anyway, but got to be in the early hours here. We don't tend to have we don't have late hours for nightclubs, not yet. So that was by Juniper, and that's easily the pick of the bunch for me anyway. Did one of these lads here. Essentially like a lock groove there. I wonder, does it actually loop at the end or does it stop? Yeah, it loops. Anyway, let's moving on. There's one on All City. This one's by Anno Stam, aka Ann Stam. He has a funny knack of being able to sound very old school, but then all of a sudden sound very futuristic as well. One of the keys is the vocals he uses actually sometimes. Probably a few better examples on the album actually. Doesn't do as much. That kind of reminds me a little bit of some of the Acid Jesus stuff. Not the actually, probably just the Roman Flugel stuff on his own. He used to do stuff a little bit like that. That wouldn't really have any hi-hats. Would be just kind of one weird lead and him just messing around with it basically, and a kick drum. It's not my favourite Anno Stam release so far, but you've got to hand it to anybody that doesn't rely on hi-hats. And you kind of even wonder, like, you know, it would be interesting, like, as a producer, if you're a producer out there, imagine like you muted your hi-hats and all your top-end percussion and just see what the tune is like then, you know. I think I've heard of a few other producers like saying this, how they know it's the easiest thing in the world to put a ride cymbal in there, put a hi-hat or whatever, but they just don't want to do it. They don't want to, they just think it's too easy an option, you know. And there's a lot to be said for that, for challenging yourself, especially as a techno producer, for not just bringing in the things that you know work or that help the track, give that track the little pick-me-up that it might need. Is to just try and do it with the actual sound elements that you have there, rather than just the drums. And that's something I admire about someone like Andréasson. Like there, he's taken on like the full side, and it doesn't sound like there's a hi-hat in sight. So you know, respect for that. Sorry, which one is this now? Which one actually is this? Oh, this is the Lee Holman one. Also on Shelter Records. Yeah, moving on. Fairly pounding stuff from Lee here. Possibly the pick of them, slightly dreamier offering. Kind of the only one there that sort of has a broken rhythm. Yeah, nice job by Lee, and I think Stephen with Shelter Records, he's pretty much putting out 2 records at a time, so he's quickly gaining momentum with the label. Now, the next one is by Lair. Laura is her name, and this one is on EOMax label called EO Trax. I think they're both a 33. I was actually going to say it sounds a bit like Oros, but sure it is Oros. It's the Oros remix. Slowly builds in intensity. Gotta say, I did go off the Oros stuff a little bit. I felt there was a lot of stuff in, it can just happen with some producers. They just put out a lot of stuff, and it could be just, it's probably just a personal thing, you know. But when somebody starts to bring out a lot of material and it starts to hit a certain territory that you're maybe not feeling as much, you can kind of tend to switch off to them then, because you've already got a lot of their material, and then you feel they've gone into an area that they're maybe not going to come back from. And for me, I kind of just felt that I had an awful lot of Oro stuff. I wasn't as interested, but here and there, see, and this is what I was saying earlier as well. There's so much stuff coming out, and a lot of the time, I find it can be quite easy to stick with some of the producers whose stuff you're really enjoying at that present moment, and it's very easy to kind of overlook people who were really doing the business for you before, if that makes sense. And like I said, with so many records coming out now, we don't have as much time to give that extra time to certain producers or certain records. In the case of Oros, I haven't seen as much of him of his out, but you know, like this, it's certainly not as floor focused. It builds nicely in intensity, as I was saying there. Certainly, Lair is her artist name here, but a lot of it, what I really like about it is it's almost like meditation music. She uses her voice. Her voice is at the heart of this one. You can hear kind of multi-track it there, it sounds like. Besides maybe listening to this at home, for me in a DJ context, like I mentioned before, I'd find this kind of stuff really good for opening sets with as well. But here and there it can be good to get into these little intersections in your sets as well. So I'm glad Lair is making this kind of stuff and that Ian is putting it out as well, because these are the kind of things that these are kind of records that can just give some of our sets more identity sometimes. So that one is by Lair and that's on EO Trax. Yeah, quite a bit of attention to detail in those as well, just keep them moving somewhere. Now, this one is by Matrix Man and Satoic Mass on... what's it on? Now, Faki's label, it's a figure. Yeah, decent enough club tools. On. Yeah, so it's like they both came together and yeah, just made some kind of loop tools for the dance floor. I don't hear anything really new here that I haven't heard from either producer. It does sound like it's leaning a little bit more towards Satoic Mass's style. But it can often be the way in a collaboration. Either way, 4 solid tracks for techno DJs there. This one is by Emotic. Again, it's following a similar kind of theme, and the thing about some of these records is I'm personally that kind of sound I'm fairly bored of, but on these records that have a couple of those tunes, there will be another one that will just catch your ear. For me, it's this one. He's done a fair few records now. That's the 6th one on that release already. Watch out for that. I think I saw number 7 out or something, or it's coming out as well. Now this one, if I can get it out, the cover is by Special Request. Who's just banging the releases out and albums like there's no tomorrow. I just don't know how he gets time to do all of this. talking to Paul Wolford before, he's fairly much using the same setup that he has done for years. Like I don't think he's like got into the whole software end of things or anything like that. It's always been coming straight out of the machines, and pretty much on the same, you know, with largely the same setup. I think that he's always had. I could be wrong in that now, but I think there's some sampler at the heart of it. I can't actually remember, but I do recall him mentioning this before, that he's working with the same system and same setup that he has done for many years. So there's no Ableton or anything like that in there anyway. Now, so there was a Noisy Parker remix there. I think that was the last one. Oh no, yeah. Or was that the... Okay, I think that's the one I played. And we had the Peter Manfeld one at the end. Bit of Hoover business going on there. Excellent stuff from him. One of the best tracks we've had on this episode. Yeah, it's like for a while it was nearly sounding like old Subhead or something like that. Parker one. Oh, it's a remix, is it? Definitely quite 90s influenced. So that was the Nosy Parker remix. Okay, it's a remix by him. There isn't a person, because now that I look at the name of the track, is called Curtain Twitcher, and that's the Nosy Parker remix. So it makes sense. That's just one of his own remixes rather than an alias. Now this one is by, this is on BBB Records, which is Bjarke's label. Now who's this by? This is by Volratus, I think is the name. Attitude, this one. Interesting one. Electro business there. Good stuff. Yeah, don't sleep on this label. There's a lot of stuff coming out. They've already had a fair few releases, and I think this is maybe only the first. Did I have one more on this? I don't know. No, I think it's the first one I got on this label. Actually, I've been aware of it, but they've been coming out quite fast. So yeah, nice one there from that producer who is called, what's his name? Voluptuous or something. This one is on Aufnahme und Wiedergabe, and it's by Sarin. Yeah, so different variations of the same thing there. 3 variations. So it's a case of take your pick which of those EBM influenced ones do you want? Moving on to this one is on Null and Void, Kirsty Weir's label, and this is by, and you can kind of hear, you can hear it there already. It's like an old Two Lone Swordsman, a Radioactive Man track, and that's because it is Keith Tenniswood. It is Radioactive Man, ably assisted by Simon Lynch and Johnny Oakley. So it's the three of them together, and I think it's L or is the name of the. I'll wait and see. Yeah, L, is it just L to or something like that? Is their artist name, their combined name? So I think basically this is the result of the three of them going into the studio, having a bit of a jam, and putting forward the tracks on a record. Yeah, and all of the pacey electro variety. Jumpy rhythms. Probably the more accessible of the three that we've heard so far. I'm preferring the madness of the other side more. Either way, you've got, you know, four strong tracks here, I think. All of slightly different style. But yeah, the other side definitely being a bit pacier. So that one's on Null and Void, like I said, and L or is there, or is it L O or L or is the artist name there. Now here's a record by, oh, this is various artist things. Skatebard, Frederick Becasson is on this as well. What's the name of the label though? It's Somaroa Records. Maybe warp sounding. Quite a short tune that one though. Sorry, I don't actually have all the info on this, so it's not really ideal. Yeah, moving on to the flip. So that was Skatebard, followed by Frederick Becasson, and this one is Bjorn Svin, I think. Let me check. No, this is the A one. Okay, so the other side is Bjorn Svin and Christian Tilts. This is Skatebard here, I think. So more melodic electro. District with a broken beat there. Yeah, another direction now as well. Yes, a smart little 4-tracker there. It's on a label called Somaroa. Sorry, I didn't have all the info to hand until I saw this side. Yeah, new, I think Swedish label or I'm not too sure. Scandinavian anyway, for sure. Now this one is by SBX and it's on Cleric's new label, and actually also has a Cleric remix on it. I need to get the name of the label actually. So it's called, I think it's just called Projects. It's not called Projects. Projects with a K. And it's Projects number 1. Yeah, SBX has a really strong jacking sound. Like a lot of people have been a big fan of his stuff over the last, obviously the stuff that came out in Comish and then Time to Express, and he kind of went quiet there for a little while, but he's definitely building up a lot of stuff now, and we'll have a bunch of release is coming. This is kind of the first of his new stuff. Now on the flip, I think this might be the one. Is this the one with? Is this the Cleric remix? I couldn't be sure actually which one is his. So that sounds like SPX a bit too. Maybe that's the Cleric remix. Sounds like it could be. Yeah, I'd say that's probably the Cleric remix. I think there is a Cleric remix on this. Oh shit. Full on, straight ahead one there to finish it off. So that's on Projects, which is Cleric's label by SPX. Now we're close to the end. This one is by Chase Smith. Sending you some lungs. This is on Apartment Records. It's the first one on Apartment in quite some time actually. Quite Detroit flavoured broken beat offering there. Whose vocals those are, if those are Chase Smith's himself. Hard to know. Onto the flip. Well, those vocals definitely sound like they're Chase Smith's anyway, because he sounds like he's fucking around here. I think this is my pick of them. I did like the contrast though on the other side, getting a little bit more retro on the second track. But this, yeah, this has a lot of nasty intent. Snares aplenty. A little bit of an acid line creeping in there. Pitch shifted vocal still doing its job. And like we certainly don't hear so many tracks with strings these days, but there's no doubt here there even no confusion, lots of strings, and yeah, good rolling groove there as well. Model 500 stylings. that's on Empowerments, their first one in a while. Moving on, we got I Hate Models. This one is on Mono Black, bit of a blaster as you'd expect, being on Dax J's label. Warehouse Acid sound. God, I don't think I've ever used that term, warehouse acids. Forget I said that. I think I'm possibly getting caught up with the wordplay of Warehouse Memories, which was I Hate Models' breakthrough track. I think that was the name of the tune. But certainly he does a lot of he does that kind of big room, rough acid sounds very well. Yeah, moving on. Yeah, there's a lot of people doing acid stuff, but not always with the additional melodies. It's not completely at play here, but you did hear it in the last track. Obviously he's doing some of that more EBM influence stuff as well, a lot of which is around at the moment, but I think I Hate Models is doing it quite well. Yeah, moving on. This one's by Paul Birkin on Don't Recordings. It's a 10-inch actually. A couple of lock grooves. Paul's typical unhinged style. Going on to the flip. Yeah, good noisy techno goodness there from Paul. It's on Jerome's label. Don't. Now moving on, we got what have we got here? Various bomb tests. This is on Bomb Trap. Yeah, that's the one I've been playing the most anyway. First one there was Subhead. This one that was Macris and Poupon. It's called College Attitudes. And then heading on to the flip. Hang on a sec. Was that? Maybe I fucked up on that before because I remember putting that on a. Okay, this is no, I didn't. This is the beat. This is Mason Rent. Galloping techno rhythm there, and then closed off by DJ Z Miguel, Portuguese producer. This kind of Chicago-y thing. Now here's one by Italian producer called Schedule. I played with in Bologna recently. This route of sort of trancier techno. There's a fair bit of that around at the moment. So fairly DJ friendly stuff there from Schedule. That's on a label called Consequent. Now let me see. Here we don't need there. This one is by Ryan James Ford and it's on his label Shut. That's my favourite of it. Yeah, already Ryan James Ford stuff. It's already having a very classic feel to a lot of it. You know, in some ways you're kind of getting the feel of early Plastic Man, but you're also getting the feel of some of the early Warp releases as well. This was the one for me though. And actually when I say early Warp releases, not the early stuff, but Tecker and to some degree Plaid. Definitely heard hints of those in some of his stuff. Yeah, to me that's the really complete track of the four here, and that's on his label Shut. And make sure you watch out for Ryan James Ford. He's slowly but surely building up a fairly impressive discography. This one's by Casio Royale. I'm not too sure when exactly this came out actually. It's on Dance Trax is the name of it. Very imaginatively picked names label. Of the vocals here, which again I'm hearing nicely in the headphones here. Yeah, so it's definitely a little bit like old Steve Poindexter, DJ Funk kind of stuff. You listen carefully as well, there's like little well-known vocal samples that are hopping in and out. The kind of different tune of the tree. It's almost like nothing like the other tree. That's Casio Royale, aka Mark IV shot. Moving on, we got one from More Alien. And this one is on FM AM. So a nice little pulsing groove that eventually becomes more atmospheric. An electro track here. Progression in all of these tracks, actually. Carefully programmed and arranged. Now onto the flip. So a mixture of techno and electro here. Almost like a bit of a hybrid here. Getting a little bit, I don't know. Yeah, no, it sounds like someone else. And in terms of the more straight ahead banger of the four, this is probably it. But again, just really good atmospherics lurking in and out. Which is the key to bringing some of these kind of tracks to the next level. Actually, there's a lot of stuff that you'll hear that is quite loop driven and sounds fairly much like the same looping with the synth filters, but you know, bring in some nice atmospherics and it can just take on a new life. So that one's by More Alien. Moving on, Boston 168, Italian duo who are building up. Good name for themselves at the moment. Acids tinged productions. Here to come out here. Then a remix from Fabrizio Lapiana. Is that how I say his name? Sorry, let me double check that again. Sorry about that. Fabrizio Lapiana, yeah. Which is fine. And that one is on Attic. Attic is the name of the label there. Okay, now this one's a bit of a belter from Gaja on South London Analog Material. Absolutely no shit is taken on this. And this is the kind of borderline, it's almost bordering on hardcore, some of it. Certainly tempo wise it isn't completely way up or anything. It's quick but not hardcore level. Out the 5 as well, that's the one that keeps, well, these two are probably possibly that first one keeps a little more clarity. Sometimes when you are making stuff that's quite distorted, oh shit, it loses clarity. I think the first one there was just about spot on. Pick for me out of that. Good heavy acid stuff. Some South London analog material, which is Ossian, or these, yeah, Ansem and Ossian's label. Now this one is by David Meister, and thanks a lot, David, for sending me this. This is David's a really cool gentleman. Actually, he's been making music for a good while now. Actually, he's been releasing for, I don't know, 6 or 7 years or something like that, maybe. Spanish producer, and quite an impressively packaged release. So it also came with a USB key or stick as well with the tracks on it, or maybe that was a separate thing, I don't know, but he sent that on as well. Thanks a lot, David. I've been definitely playing his tracks over the years. I think he might have had one album before, I can't remember, but good jacking kind of one, yeah. There, so like maybe his own vocals there, actually. There's a lot of kind of hard jacking techno on it so far. Now the danger sometimes of putting 3 tracks per side is that some of them won't sound as wide or as full sounding, but I think he gets away with it here. Like for the inside cut there, still keeps his clarity. So overall, kind of sounding a little, I guess, a little old school. Sting in this one. I think if played at the right time, some of these are gonna really make the club go off. Made me think a little bit recently, or I have been thinking just about techno albums in general. I think when a lot of, I may have discussed on this before, when a lot of producers do an album, they decide they want to, you know, they want to become ambient producers for various stages of their album to show that they can do more than techno. But you know, more and more now when I'm hearing a techno double pack or album coming out, I'm certainly not judging the producer if they do all straight up club tracks, you know. That's essentially what they do, you know. So I've kind of not that I ever really did, but I don't really judge a techno album in that way, that it needs to be, you know, hugely diverse and this and that. It's not like some of the great albums of the past that we know, we're all trying to be everything within the one, you know. I think I mentioned Waveform Transmission 1 earlier, you know. By and large, that's a collection of absolute bangers, you know. So really, yeah, we sometimes have different ways of judging LPs or what constitutes an actual LP. It is nice that they take a little bit of a journey, or that it's something different to what two 12 inches would be together. But you know, if they are all straight up bangers, so be it. So this one's by Fran Hartnett. It's called Know What I Mean. Dense pounder from him. And he's been making stuff like this for years, really. He's been making, he's probably under-released, really, like when you compare the amount of music he's made over the years. Like there's a hell of a lot of material that he has, and I guess a lot of stuff he's probably just sat on and maybe not released, but in recent years he's been getting a few more out, and expect to see more of him, because Fran's always, you know, he's always working on new music, and always, sometimes he amasses lots of new tracks, makes lots of new tracks, but doesn't always do lots with some of them, it seems. But I guess there were a few in recent times, and I know he's, you know, sitting on a lot of good stuff there, so it's nice to see that one come out. This one is by Rory St. John, which is slightly, kind of slightly, it's not quite an off-kilter groove, but it's sort of, think between it and the kick, it just sounds ever so slightly, yeah, it's kind of operates in a slightly weird space. Now on the flip. Kind of a rolling, acidic, haunting techno track from John Hussey. Yeah, really good offering from him as well. And then moving on to Kaki Aito, who does a remix of that. So yeah, 4 solid tracks on show here. That's an RSLD. Label, Bill Galvin and Doug Cooney. Now, just about there. Yeah, maybe I'll go to the Paco one actually. The second RLSD release, by the way, watch out for them. This one's on Raw Records. All of them are by Paco. Loopy business, but all done well. Those kind of tracks that once the needle hits the record, you just hear it. It just has that feeling. You just know they're gonna kick when you play them out. Paco on Raw. I'll very quickly go through this. This one is by ABSL on Blockhouse series. So kind of distorted. Techno track. Soaring kind of atmospherics. This one is called Sleepwalker Race. Definitely dominated by that kick drum. It's a big kick. Two solid offerings there from him. And here's one that I Hate Models did as well. Yeah, nice combo of elements in that one. So moving on, just about there. This one by Rendered. It's on Fleisch. So like a lot of that stuff, it sounds quite Front 242 EBM influenced. There's a lot of this stuff coming out at the moment, but Rendered. Their own little take on it. A bit after the break there, and then there's a Codec Empire remix as well. So we have an acid line near the end. Then we've got this one. This one is by Len Faki. It's actually by Frankie Bones. It's called Bump Your Head, which I actually took the liberty of bringing the original of, which is on Bellboy Records. Now these are a couple of edits by Len Faki. On the back of the record he talks a bit about his technique of doing edits and whatnot. He talks a lot about that actually. I guess this is a generic spiel that he puts on the back of all these edits records. Certainly doesn't mention the original producer there. It does say, I extend my deep gratitude to all the original artists involved for supporting this project. But yeah, in fairness to him as well, he's donating all profits of the project to charity as well, which is good of him. Okay, he's only kind of really used one element of the original there, but it kind of works. It's a good track. There you hear a little bit more of it. The original also came out on Remains as well. I have two versions on two different records actually. Nice to hear it again. Yeah, similar to what Slam were doing earlier as well, kind of editing some of these or using the main elements out of them. This is the original. Yeah, it's a bit better than the Len Faki edits, but Len Faki's edits still keep that vocal and add the kind of extra jack to it, which is good as well. But I think it's hard to outdo Frankie Bones sometimes. I know he did a lot of kind of pinching of samples and all that kind of stuff, which was part of his style, but yeah, I don't know. He's one producer whose stuff is never too far away from my record bag. Now listen, I could go through all of this. Like, there's a whole triple pack here, right? So I'm not even gonna go through every single producer, because we're up to the E side. That's Signal. No, this is Vinny actually. The first one was Symbol. This one is more Famish, and then Lado was on there as well. Now we're gonna do this quick, and then Seaside there is Nomads, the Sultan's Shoe Shop. Durkas. What else do we have? Des Williams. Oh yeah, and here's what the Martin Hare tune is. Intense one from him. And now at the end of a Martin quarterly crate, Jesus. I do try to make these shorter, believe it or not. Yeah. I'm actually, I don't know what it is today. I feel like I've been maybe not in my fastest gear today. Horrorist. This one is called Riot. Paul Birkin, another appearance this time. Got about 3 appearances at least. Cannibal Cooking Club. This is part of a triple pack, sorry I didn't explain, coming on Riot Radio Records. In fairness to them, they're not holding back. They are banging out the records and have a lot of stuff coming next year as well. And it's great to see people put out triple packs. Fair play to them. Lots of great ones on this, but I think the top pick for me anyway, and one of my favourites of the moment, is this one, Dr. Foot Juice by Neil Landstrom. Anyway, thanks for braving it through the many hours of this episode, and thanks to Tim, Mr. Spring as well for putting everything together. Until next time, goodbye, thanks.